All right, so it's time to talk about the Golden State Warriors. They have just been a little bit annoying to me so far this season, and are pissing me off a little bit because I always have high hopes for the Warriors, and I've always liked the Warriors as well. But last night, they just got eliminated from the in-season tournament by the Sacramento Kings. They're off to an 8-10 start this season, and I do think first-time general manager Mike Dunleavy has a lot of work cut out for him at this year's deadline. The Warriors right now are the 13th team when it comes to offensive rating, a lot of that due to Steph Curry's elite season. They're 17th in defensive rating, they're 18th overall in net rating. They've had some brutal losses as of late. That were pretty close against the Kings last night. They lost to the Suns by 8 recently. They lost to the OKC Thunder by less than 10 a couple weeks ago as well. I mean, then you throw in a 4-game losing streak stretch where they lost to the Nuggets, the Cavs, and the Timberwolves twice, all by less than 10. So they definitely have had some close games so far that haven't gone their way this season. You can also say that on the flip side, like they had a very close win against the Kings. They had that absolute mess of a game against the Thunder where they ended up winning when Steph Curry's game-winning shot actually counted and there was like some rim interference in there and all that. They had a close win against the Rockets and the Spurs. So it definitely is a two-way street when you could say like the ifs if they could have won any more games. But yeah, the Warriors so far, 8-10 like I said to start off the year. They're currently the 10th seed in the Western Conference. And what we've seen so far from them in a decent sample size in 18 games, does this show any signs of a championship caliber team? Because every year that Steph Curry is still playing for this team, their goal should be to win the championship. They went out, they traded Jordan Poole last offseason for Chris Paul, which shows they're still in win now mode. They're trying to win the 2024 championship, and this team has not looked like a team that can achieve that goal in June. So yeah, like, what is going on, everybody? How is everybody doing today? I just wanted to talk about the Golden State Warriors and how they've been just a little bit disappointing to me so far this season, maybe what they could do at the deadline, what could change for them. It also seems like there's been some like off the court issues. Clay has had some sarcastic comments. It seems like a lot of people are throwing some shade at Andrew Wiggins at times. Chris Paul just got hurt last night with a leg injury, so we'll see how long he's going to be out for. And while Wiggins did play well last night, he's also been pretty inefficient so far this year. Andrew Wiggins shooting 43% from the field, 26% from 3, and 59% from the free throw line. He does not look like the Andrew Wiggins that we saw from Golden State in the 2021-2022 championship season when they won it all. He seemed like he was arguably the second most important player or third most important player on that team, and he looks like he may not even be in the top 5 at times this season. And it is said that people are saying that if you tell your mom Klay Thompson after she tells you to do the dishes, she'll know they're washed. I just had to throw that in there. But yeah, I don't think Klay is officially washed. I mean, he's still 33 years old. Obviously, he doesn't look like the Klay of old. You would say he's also overall efficiency has a little bit been down this season. He's not terrible from 3. He's a down 3-point shooter, but he's shooting 35% from 3, which is still very solid. Or excuse me, it's actually 36% from 3, which you will take. I think overall, though, his shot creation looks a little bit off. Obviously, the defense has looked like it's taken a little bit of a step back as well. And I think at times I'm a little bit disappointed in Klay, and I don't think that the Warriors should look to trade him because I know that's going to be thrown around a little bit because he's expiring contract. It's a lot of money, and maybe a team that could be interested in some more shooting would definitely try to do somewhat of a swap for him. Jonathan Kuminga has also been a little bit disappointing while we see guys like Alperen Sengun and Evan Mobley and Jalen Suggs, all from the 2021 first round class, all take massive steps here in year 3. We haven't really seen that from Kuminga. He's still averaging under 20 minutes a night. He hasn't really shown much as a 3-point shooter by any means. He didn't really take advantage of the Draymond Green suspension to really showcase that he could be the leading forward of this squad, at least offensively. And I know he's still only 21 years old and he's still under contract next year as well. I would just like to see a little bit of a year 3 step over Kuminga because I liked him above Giddey and I liked him above Scotty Barnes during the 2021 draft. So like I'll say I was pretty much wrong on Kuminga. I really liked him out of the G League Ignite, so he has been a little bit disappointing, at least in my eyes so far in his career. They're risking a whole lot out of Dario Saric so far this season. Nobody really expected that out of Golden State, while Chris Paul has been a good floor general, and his game can still translate to winning more than what we've seen from Jordan Poole. Like, thank God they did that deal, because Jordan Poole is not playing well in Washington. Chris Paul has still been massively inefficient so far for the Warriors this season. 39% from the field, 32% from 3. So you're going to have to take some of those cons with the pros of him being still one of the league's best floor generals. And I think Moses Moody has shown kind of some flashes as well, but still only playing around 17 minutes a night. I would like to see him maybe play a little bit more. Maybe we'll see him get a couple more minutes if there is going to be a Chris Paul injury, because he has been very efficient this season, and I do think he's a little bit more comfortable in year 3 because he was the 14th pick back in 2021 as well. And Warriors fans, I'd love to know in the comments who you think you have more confidence in long term. Is it Moses Moody or is it Jonathan Kuminga? I love Brandon Bojemski out of Santa Clara so far. This season, I liked him a lot in like the pre-draft process as well, like watching his film. And he's a guy that could do a little bit of everything. He could pass, he could rebound, he could score, he could shoot from 3, he can run in transition. He's very active on the ball, and I think he's been a nice spark plug for the Warriors so far this season. He hasn't played a ton of minutes so far, but I think as we progress throughout this season and his rookie campaign, he could provide some important minutes for the Warriors on the stretch, whether it's trying to make the play-in tournament, in the play-in tournament, or just in the playoffs overall. It looks like also Kevon Looney has taken a little bit of a step back so far. We saw him like really dominate the playoffs at times last year at the center spot against like the Sacramento Kings specifically. But this year, I mean, I think he's still fine as your center, and he's still like 27 years old, but I think you got to figure out if there's an upgrade to be made at the center position at the deadline this year. And then you got guys like Gary Payton who are still providing you those role player minutes that you really expect. You're not really expecting too much out of Gary Payton. I'd like to see Trace Jackson Davis a little bit more, especially in some pick and roll sets, but I know it's going to be hard to really transition him into this offense right away. He was a second round pick, but he was a little bit more experienced coming out of Indiana last year, and he's, I think, 23 years old. So pretty much just went through the Warriors right there. Obviously, Steph Curry's having an elite season. Last week, I made a video on just things that don't make any sense this year, and it's just Steph's overall efficiency, like shooting 48% from the field, 44% from three, 94% from the line. His true shooting is off the charts. It's like top 10 in the NBA, and he's a point guard. Usually the top 10 goes to big men because they're not really taking a lot of threes, especially if they're good free throw shooters as well. It can really help out their true shooting. But nope, Steph is just the best pretty much shooter in the league still in the year 2023, and he's really carrying this Warriors team. I don't even know how many wins they would have if Steph really wasn't playing for them. They probably have like 4 or so. So yeah, if the Warriors were to make a trade at this year's deadline, man, they have a lot of big contracts. Obviously, Steph is making $51 million a year. They got Klay making $43 million. So it's going to be very tough to move Klay, and a team maybe would take a chance on Klay because it is an expiring contract. I just don't think you move Klay. So I do think that's out of the question. I think it would be very tough to also just flip Chris Paul, and I don't really think he's been like the number one issue for the Warriors this season. So his $30 million contract, I'd let that stay put. I think Andrew Wiggins is an interesting idea because it could open the floor a little bit more, provide some better spacing, and a team, if Wiggins plays better a little bit, they could kind of value his 3-year contract. $24 million this year, $26 next year, $28 million in 2026. Actually, it's a 4-year contract because a $30 million player option in 2027 he'd probably accept. Because he signed, this 4-year, $109 million deal in October of 2022, and I think a team like would be able to give up some valuable pieces. Like, would a team? I don't think like Philly would want to use their cap space on anything past this season, and I think they'd probably be more in like the market for like a Levine or Siakam, if anything. But I just wonder the idea, like maybe there's a Wiggins for Siakam swap if Toronto is interested in bringing Wiggins back home to Canada. I don't think they would probably be interested in that long term, and it's like a catch-22 because Wiggins right now value at the lowest because he's not playing well, and if you want to wait it out so he plays better to up the trade value, why not just keep him because he's playing better? So it's really tough to kind of figure that out. Obviously, you're not moving Draymond at $22 million, still one of the league's best defenders. I think you can get a little bit interesting with Gary Payton at $8 million, Kevon Looney at $7.5 million, and Jonathan Kuminga at $6 million, because a team would definitely still value Kuminga, a team that's maybe not going to be making the playoffs this year, but it's like, oh, we can get Jonathan Kuminga, let's definitely do that. I mean, you could probably package most of those contracts, like say you do package Payton and Kuminga, and that gets you around $14 million. Do you want to bring in like a Bojan Bogdanovic, or maybe throw in a pick in there and try to bring in an OG Anunoby? Because I think Kuminga would still have some value against teams trying to be sellers at the deadline. So I do think Golden State should try to take advantage of that. And if they know that they have something in Moses Moody, I think that makes you feel a little bit better moving Kuminga at the deadline. And if you think you're at least going to get 1 or at least 2 more good years at a Draymond Green where you're perfectly fine with him at the 4, I think you do so. I do think Golden State should try to add like an upgrade at the center spot, because obviously you can throw Draymond there at the small ball 5, and it will work at times, but do you really trust that against Anthony Davis in the playoffs or Nikola Jokic, or maybe some of these better centers? Like if you're going up against Minnesota, they have a lot of size in that front court with Karl-Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert, so I don't know how comfortable I'd feel having Draymond go up against Gobert if he's not going to get suspended in that game. So I do think if there's like a center on the market they could be interested in. I don't think the Nets, I don't know if the Nets are going to really make Nick Claxton available, but maybe they'd be interested in like a Kuminga type package if they were going to trade him, because he's a expiring contract. But the Nets look like they can be competing for a play-in tournament spot this season. I mean, maybe the Atlanta Hawks are willing to move on from Clint Capella, and you try to move maybe Kevon Looney and Gary Payton for Clint Capella, like something like that. I'm saying just because you can find an upgrade over Kevon Looney and get a little bit more size in that front court. And for Atlanta, they probably want to give the full-time reins to Onyeka Okongwu. They just haven't really gotten a good trade offer for him. I mean, you could look into like the Kelly Olynyk's of the world, or the Xavier Tillmans, or the Zach Collins, but maybe those aren't too exciting and aren't going to put you over the hump, because right now I don't think they're better than Denver. Don't think they're better than Minnesota the way they're playing. You can say that they are maybe in that tier with Dallas, OKC, and Sacramento. I still feel like I would take Phoenix in a 7-game series over the Warriors. And just basically from what we saw last year, I would still take the Lakers. So like I said, I think it's going to be a very interesting trade deadline for Mike Dunleavy. Warriors fans, I'd love to know what you want to see from this team in the comments below. Do you think they should just kind of run the course of the season, try to make the playoffs as any seed possible, and run with the team you have right now and hope you catch fire and you can really get a lot of momentum in April and it leads into May and June, and you think this team can make a run? Or do you think changes need to be made? Like I said, I think it would be very tough to trade Klay Thompson. I also think like as a just relationship with your fans, maybe just let him walk in free agency and it's like, oh, that was Klay Thompson's decision, not ours. But if you trade him, you're like, all right, yeah, like he's a Golden State legend. He's a top 3 player in the franchise's history. You could say he is number 2 in franchise history just for what he means to the Warriors. And yeah, just trading him maybe for, it'd probably be like 50 cents on the dollar for Klay at this point, just because the way he's been playing. And I don't know what team is going to dish out $43 million. Like, are we talking about a Tobias Harris for Klay Thompson swap? What does that solve for Golden State, right? Like, do you really want to bring in Ben Simmons? No. I mean, there could be a 3-way deal involved that sends Klay to another team, and then there could be picks and other assets from that other team in Golden State going to Chicago, and you could bring in Zach LaVine, and then maybe you could justify that a little bit more because LaVine is under contract for the next couple of years. He's still in his prime, and maybe he could play really good next to Steph Curry, and then you have like some really good defenders around him, like Wiggins and Draymond and Mooney at times, and you can kind of justify trading Klay if it brought back LaVine. I just think it's going to be very interesting to try to like make a move that's going to help you this year, still help you out while Steph Curry's still playing in his prime level, and what's going to be like okay by your fans' like perception, because you don't want to move Klay Thompson, who's a fan favorite still, just for absolutely nothing, right? Like, you want to like justify it, and if you're getting Zach LaVine, who's going to be here for the next 3 or so years, still playing at a good level, that will justify that trade, you know? So I think it's going to be interesting for Dunleavy at the deadline. Bob Myers may have got out at the right time now that he's an ESPN analyst and really just is like a legend there because what he built up from that Warriors squad, and obviously they had a dynasty going on over there. So yeah, I hope you guys did enjoy this video. It was fun to talk about Golden State. I think they're definitely an interesting topic at this moment. They're pretty much a team that's in the middle of the pack. I still think that they are going to make the playoffs, and I just spent like 15 minutes last week talking about the worst teams in the league, so it was nice to talk about a team that I think can still be pretty good, and I think they're going to be fine. I just think that they probably shouldn't stay pat, and they should make some type of move at the deadline, but we'll see. Hope you guys did enjoy this style of video. Let me know if you did by dropping a thumbs up. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and if there's any other topics you want to see me talk about around the NBA. I love you guys like always, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.